I always say, when people say, like, do you think it's like, what goes through your mind when someone recognizes you?
Yeah.
It is still, I'm just a girl who likes to run, and I don't understand why people fangirl over me. I'm like, I'm the same as you. You like running, I like running. Why are you like freaking out over meeting me? And I just think because I don't get, because I was an instructor through COVID. I did the at-home classes, so I knew all the instructors. You know, I've been at Peloton for, it's nearly it's exactly 7 years since I got my contract.
Hello, welcome back to the Marni On The Move podcast. I'm your host, Marni Salab. I am really psyched to bring you today's guest. She is one of my favorite Peloton running instructors. She has amazing playlists, great vibes, awesome workouts, and makes me laugh. Plus, she's a serious runner. If you haven't guessed by now, it's Becs Gentry. Becs just got back from competing, completing, and setting a world record for the Great World Race. We talk all about her training, her nutrition, her hydration, leading into the race, what inspired her to sign up for that race, when it became something on her bucket list, and how she's recovering. We also talk about the course, the travel, the logistics, all of those things. We also do a deep dive into her broadcasting and hosting career, where it went from being on the screen at Peloton and leading all of the amazing treadmill classes and programming to broadcasting with NBC at the Paris Olympics. And we also talk about Peloton, the pace-focused classes, the shorter classes for winter, and what we can expect to see moving forward in the future. All right, without further ado, let's get into it. Well, welcome to the podcast, Becs, and thanks for coming to visit me live.
Thank you, I love it. It's so fun, very professional. Marni is competing with Peloton for the amount of cameras here, and I'm all about it.
Awesome, thank you. That's a high compliment coming from Peloton. So you just got back from the Great World Race.
Yes.
Dial me in. Feel free to do a race debrief, like where we start, talk to me,
Well, okay, so essentially for your listeners who may not know what the Great World Race is, it is 7 marathons on 7 continents in just 1 week. So we get to travel the world, we get to run 26.2 every single day, even though some days it felt like it was the same day. And we bond, we travel, and we explore. That's it.
Where did you run?
So we kick it all off in Antarctica, in Wolf's Fang, Antarctica. Then we head to Africa, where we ran in Cape Town. Then we headed over to Australia to run in Perth. And then we went to Istanbul, Asia, Istanbul, Europe, because wonderful, wonderful Istanbul is split in the continent by the Bosphor River. So either side of the Bosphor River, you have 2 continents, which is a wild, wild thing to understand. And then we flew to South America, and we ran in Cartagena, Colombia. And then we flew to North America, and we ran in Miami, Florida.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was following along on Instagram. It looked like you met a lot of awesome people.
I did. There was 57 runners in total from all around the world. And we were all different ability levels, different types of runners, movers, shakers, whatever you want to call us. There was everything from 18-year-old Merrick, who did his first marathons, essentially, to 81-year-old Dan James, who had run multiple marathons, and everything in between, including 2 gentlemen with 1 lung,
wow.
2 people battling terminal cancer. There was a couple who'd run about 2,000 marathons between them. It was unreal to just meet these people. There was people, Marni, who had never run a marathon before.
And they were running 7 marathons?
Yeah.
In 7 days?
Mm-hmm. Antarctica was their first marathon. Can you imagine that?
No, I can't. I mean, this is definitely like a bucket list item.
Yes, it was.
People probably train for months for this.
I trained for most of the year. I kickstarted 2024 with Tokyo Marathon, which I openly admitted on every platform that I've ever spoken about Tokyo Marathon on, I didn't really train for.
Okay.
It was a really difficult time for me to get back into training. You know,
Right.
I was just about 1 year postpartum when I decided that, okay, I'm definitely going to do Tokyo. And just getting back in the swing of running that distance with a 1-year-old was not enjoyable for me. I was really just prioritizing time as a mom.
Right.
And I struggled leaving her, and I struggled just heading out, you know, because I'm a mom who works full time. We have 2 dogs, we have a cat, like we have a lot of things going on, as a lot of people do. So I went into that race undertrained and thinking I was the same runner I was before Tallulah, which taught me a valuable lesson. So after that kind of kick-started me to think, okay, if I'm going to do the Great World Race, I am not going into that anything other than well-trained.
So you knew about this. You were thinking about it before. Like, it wasn't like it just, you know, because what I think people think you just announced it, like you were just doing it. But in your mind, it was probably something you'd been thinking about, right?
I wanted to run the Antarctica Marathon for over a decade.
Okay.
It's been a dream of mine, which is stupid because I hate the cold. I'm a warm weather person. I have Reynolds in my hands. So it's not something, my parents were like, you hate the cold. Like you ski really fiercely so you get warm in the cold. And you don't hang around on the ski slopes, like you're in the bar, in the restaurant, or done, back in the chalet.
Right.
And so when my friend David Kilgore ran the Great World Race, or he actually did the World Marathon Challenge in 2023, I was completely enthralled and enamored by his journey. And I was lucky enough that my aunt and uncle, my Auntie Jen and Uncle David, I was with them watching David Kilgore run it. And they just, after a couple of Cosmos, I will admit, my aunt was a little bit sauced. She said, she's 81 at the time, and she was just like, my darling, I don't know what I can give you more than the opportunity to do this.
Wow.
And she said she would sponsor me if I wanted to do it. She's like, think about it, let's not decide now. Think about it over the next few months, and if you want to, this is probably the best thing I can give you while I'm still alive.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah. So I thought about it, and then just one day was like, hey, does that offer still stand? It's awkward asking anybody when they've said to you, I will give you this money, and it's a big amount of money.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Like,
How much? Can you say
how
much?
About 45,000 euros.
Okay, and is that all in, or is that like?
That's everything. The only other thing you have to pay for is getting yourself to South Africa.
Okay.
So it was a lot of money.
That is a lot of money.
Yeah, it's about $50,000 really. Yeah. She said yes, of course, and then that was it. I called David Kelly, of the race director of the Great World Race, and said, you got a spot for me still? He's like, of course, let's go. You're doing it.
That's amazing. And so you're always running, right?
Yes.
You're always, like, that's kind of like, what's your basic run, like distance? Like, what's the longest distance that's like your average distance?
Not really that far, like a normal 6 miles.
Okay.
Like, yeah, I'm very varied because I started as an ultra runner. So I went straight into long distance.
Right.
And then I came back down. I've never really gone lower than the half as something I will train for, if you like.
Okay, yeah. Like before Peloton, you were doing ultras.
Yeah, exactly. So going back to the ultra training was really fun. I didn't realize how fun that was going to be. I think I'd kind of become a bit disheartened by marathon training in a way. It's for the road races. After Tokyo, I was just like, I'm done with road races. I just don't want to do this anymore. It's boring. I can't get myself into the groove of it. And as I said, I'm a warm weather person, so training through New York spring and summer was my dream because I can run for a long time when the weather's nice.
And you just like make it look off of Peloton. Like whenever I see you running out, in your running videos on Instagram or social media, you make it look so easy. Like you're so relaxed.
Thank you.
Is that something that you encourage other people to kind of like channel and feel when they're out running?
Definitely. Running for me is moving meditation. I will openly tell you, I do not practice yoga. I do not practice traditional meditation. I've tried, but as soon as I'm in downward facing dog, I am thinking about what else I should be doing.
Right.
And it really annoys me because I actually love the practice of yoga. I find it very good for my body, my mind-ish. And I've definitely gotten into it for like month periods at a time. But I still have never been able to shake that feeling of there's other things I should be doing right now. And I hate the word should, but when it comes to yoga, it's my only best way to describe how I feel. So running, somebody once told me, a very, very, very well-practiced yogi, we were having this conversation about meditation, and he was telling me I should do it. And I was like, I've tried. Trust me, I've tried. He's like, well, that means you should try harder. I'm like, no, I don't like that. If you tell me to try harder at something that I've tried a lot at, I'm just going to back away. I'm an Aries. I'm like, no, I'm good. And then we got into this conversation. He's a runner as well. And we were talking about running. And he asked me how I felt when I ran. And all the things I said, he just looked at me and went, I take everything back. You meditate.
Yeah.
Yeah, running is my moving meditation. I'm not getting into a meditative state. That would be very unsafe.
Right, like you'd be like completely like tripping over sidewalks in New York City and like ramming into people.
Just find me floating in the Hudson River, like, oh, I'm fine. But it is my peace. It is the time where I reset my mind. When I have a lot of things on my mind, I go for my run, X miles, and I come back. And it's not deleted, it's not necessarily solved, but it's more peaceful.
Yeah.
And I'm happy with that. You know, that may change. I may welcome yoga into my life at a later date. But for now, I'm very, very happy that I've got my moving meditation. And so I hope that's what comes across when people see me running relaxed and say I make it look easy. And that's because I'm at peace when I'm running.
Well, I think like what you just said, you know, I've been practicing yoga my entire life. Yeah. And I'm a runner as well and a triathlete. And I think without yoga physically, and some mental, there have been phases where I'm in and out. Yeah. So I don't meditate and I can't sit still. So those two things are off the table for me as much as I am a yogi and practice asana and embrace all those philosophies around my running. So like when I go for a run, I just think about breathing and relaxing. And that's my yoga. But it is also moving meditation for me. I just like the asana practice of yoga so I don't really put that much thought into, like I don't try to make it something I can't make it. I just try to do it because it helps me in the long run, like literally in the long run.
Literally.
But yeah, so how did you train? So what went into your training for the Great World Race?
Oh golly, Marni, miles upon miles upon miles. I basically forgot I had a car.
Oh,
I forgot that
I've been driving around in your car everywhere.
I forgot that Uber existed.
Yeah.
And my legs were my transportation. Anywhere I needed to go where it didn't matter about how I showed up, essentially, or if there was a shower at the other end. Yeah. So I did a lot of Uber packages where I'd send outfits to work or other locations, places where I could shower. I'd run to work. I'd
From Brooklyn.
So the short route is 6 miles, the long route is 10. And I would teach whatever class it had to be. And I would run home. That's how it started. And then as the training built month by month, week by week, essentially, I would add on more. I would leave earlier. So there were days when I actually ran 30 miles before work. I was a day when I ran 37 and a half miles before work. And I went in and taught a class, and I'd run 40 something miles that day, got up the next morning, had to teach another hour's class. So it was a lot of back-to-back days, giving my body the opportunity to practice running on very tired. When we marathon train, when we race train, it's always running on tired. This was running on very tired. And teaching my body to flush out the lactic acid very quickly in order to keep going. And that paid off dividends.
What was your longest run?
I would say it was the 37 and a half miles plus the Peloton class.
And then what was the longest run you did consecutively over a period of time? Like, did you run 25? Did you practice the actual 7 days of long runs?
I did not. No.
Okay. Do people do that?
Yeah, a couple of people did like 3 days of marathons back to back. I would do definitely like a 28 mile, let's say like a 20 mile, 18 to 20 miles, 26 miles to 28 miles, and the next day would be like a 15 mile. So I would have heavier mileage bulks of days together. That was generally like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday for me. Right. And then I would rest. And on a Sunday, always, because that was my family day. It was the one day of the week that I have no work, Austin's not working, and
Did Austin and Tallulah come with you?
On runs?
No, not on the runs. Sorry.
On a 40-mile training run. Oh my gosh, super mom.
Like Austin on the bike with Tallulah in a little.
Oh my gosh, sidecar.
They could do that.
They could do that next time.
Yeah, totally.
No,
wait, that's like up there with like, wait till I knock all the equipment over.
Amazing. I love it. So yes, they came with me to Miami. That was it. So on the plane, every seat is allocated on the Great World Race. Every seat is essentially paid for or bought, like a flight. It was a private charter jet that took us from place to place, because the amount of people when I announced it were like, I don't think you understand, that's not possible. I was like, thank you. Yeah, it's not possible on Delta.
Right. I was going to say, how did you do that? Like, how do you fly from place to place? But that's part of the whole $50,000.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a private charter jet. It was actually the plane the Rolling Stones used for their last world tour, which was a legit cool. And so we had our crew that stayed with us for the first third, then they swapped, and then they came back for the final third. And the logistics of this race were just so meticulously planned by David Kelly and his team. Big hats off to them for that, because they made sure that wherever we landed, or in all of the countries we landed, we were either the first flight in or the last flight out. So that hopefully alleviated customs lines and getting through. And then because it was private charter, when we showed up at the airport, we'd already been checked in. There was just a member of the team giving us our boarding passes. Even some countries we didn't have to take our bags off the plane, which was fantastic, because when we did, it was just an absolute, show. Yeah. A bunch of tired runners trying to get like 4 bags off. Oh, what are we doing? So that's how we did it. It was very, very well planned, very well executed. Yeah. And that is part and parcel of why Hillary and I broke the world record of actually touching down and starting 7 marathons on 7 continents. We actually did it in 6 days, and so I should know the exact number, but it's 6 days and something hours, which is now a world record.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. I mean, it's not your first time like really PRing and setting records in running though, but that's amazing.
Yeah, that's the one I didn't expect at all. I never expected to come out of this with a world record against my name, and to do it with Hillary and the girls who I met on the trip was really special.
And I totally like hijacked your training conversation because I have ADD.
Quite all right, me too.
You were good though. You like went right with it. You were like, oh, the world race, right? Okay. So what about like nutrition and hydration, like in your training, like leading up to the race? Like, did you just have to like really bring hyper focus to that?
I did, because I've been lucky enough to work with Morton for a while. Actually, I worked with them very closely for the first time at my New York City Marathon run in 2019, which was my PR, and that kind of kickstarted my professional running career. And then, so the Morton team, I worked with an amazing scientist / nutritionist called Lauren over there, who helped me dial it in. We sat down, I had my threshold testing and all of like how my body creates its energy. Like, how do I use my glucose? How do I use my carbs? And it was so interesting to me because I thought I was a sugar person. I was like, I'm gummy bears, I love the sugar. I am a carb person and I need high carbs. Like, the sugar doesn't do me that well. Okay. So I need electrolytes because I sweat a lot. Right. And carbs, and also sugar, of course, we all need it. But not in the amount I thought I did. So she and I sat down very regularly, and I would send her how many gels I did on my long run. I would weigh myself before my run and after, not for weight, don't give a little,
but for the hydration
about that. Yeah. For how much I've lost, exactly, how much water has gone. And if not much had changed, I was doing the right thing. So it was a method to it. I'm used to fueling from about 45 minutes in with my Morton gels, and then every half an hour.
Do you eat anything before? Like, do you eat breakfast?
Oats. Yeah. I just do my overnight oats. For this training run, actually, big shout out to Michael Chernow and his team at Creatures of Habits. I'm not sponsored by them. Okay. I listened to him on a podcast, loved his story, and was compelled to try his product, and it is tasty and really served me well. So
cool.
that is not
Good
affiliated. This is just a person who really likes someone's product. So I added that into it, and also because it comes in single serve sachets, in my brain I was like, well, this is going to be easy to take with me on the Great World Race. So it wasn't just like, what's it called, Bob's Mills or whatever.
Bob's Red Mill, yeah. No, that's like then you sat there and cooking it. I mean, I cook that every morning, by the way. And
they're still good for overnight
it's a nightmare.
oats. I still used to do my overnight oats with that. But I wasn't going to have access to a kitchen.
Right.
I'm on a plane. But I could get some oat milk or some almond milk, put it in a Tupperware, boom, that's all you need. It's
simple.
Done. And it had protein in it, which was important for the potential GI issues, which we'll talk about. The training, and then Morton brought out these solid bars, which were a game changer.
The Rice Krispie ones? Are they the Rice Krispies? I love those. They're chocolate, and then they have vanilla. I eat those on the bike nonstop.
I mean, for cycling, I believe how great that is.
Yeah.
When I did my perimeter of Manhattan run,
I was going to ask you if you did that.
I had those while I was running, which I've never done before.
Yeah.
But I was steady pacing it. I didn't, I pulled it back to a light jog. And I didn't eat the whole thing. It was like half of a half.
Right.
That was in my pocket. But having those before I ran, and because they're so quickly digestible, I literally have them half an hour before I leave. As you're getting yourself ready for your long run, walking around the house, I'm like munching on that. And it really worked. And whether it was psychosomatic or not, I don't care.
Right.
Because before every long training run, before every race, I chowed down one of those for sure. And
that's a great idea. I'm going to start doing that for my long runs.
Not even a whole one. I'd have a half of one, and I'd tuck the other half with me if I thought I would need it.
Yeah.
Or I'd have it afterwards because I did not want to be fully depleted.
That's a great idea. So you used the Morton bars.
Yeah.
And then did you drink any carbs or? No. Okay, that's hard.
I said to Lauren and the Morton team, no disrespect to your products, I cannot stomach your drink.
Yeah.
And I know, you see all the elites out there with it, or with the bottles at least.
Yeah.
And I've tried so many times. I tried at the Olympic trials. Austin was handing it to me. I'd take a sip and be like, throw that. I can't.
You have to find what works for you. And unfortunately, different things work from different brands.
Yeah.
So
I would weirdly rather have more gels, but what I do run with in those collapsible bottles, which are phenomenal. I love those things.
I need to check that out too.
Yeah, because I'm weird. I like running. I don't know whether you know this about me. I like running with something in my hand. So ever since I first run, and I think that's because I started with ultras, and you'd sometimes have poles, you'd have whatever. When I started running marathons, I'd carry a lip balm with me, like a teeny tiny lip balm, and I'd hold it all the way. My New York City marathon, I kept my beanie hat in my hand. I could have thrown it away. It didn't mean anything to me. It was just a standard beanie hat I'd bought to keep my head warm when we were getting there. Didn't want to throw it away, held it all the way to the finish. And so these collapsible bottles, they go obviously completely flat.
Yeah.
And it's just nice for me. I like having it. But in there, I put electrolytes. So whether it's Scratch, whether it's Liquid IV, Drip Drop, I'm not affiliated to any brand. I just, whatever flavors I've got. I took Liquid IV with me for the Great World Race, mainly because they're super high sugar. They have one that's high sugar and one that's low sugar. And that to me was like, okay, I'm getting in my sugars there.
Because you want your sugar.
Yeah, and then Morton has the cleaner glucose, the cleaner carbs in the gels. So that was my setup.
Have you ever used Nix Hydration? They're not a sponsor, I just really like their product.
No.
So it's a device that you put on your arm.
Okay.
And then you sync it up with your cell phone, you go for a run, and you can see how much electrolytes and in your electrolytes, like how much you're losing, and also your rate of sweat, which might be useful for you moving forward. I can get you one.
Oh, wow. That would
but
be
yeah, I
amazing
mean,
to try.
it's been really game changing for me just because I know exactly how many electrolytes I lose per hour. So I try to replenish. So I look at the numbers, 500, Scratch has 500.
Yeah.
None of these are sponsors of mine. I'm just
same.
talking.
But when we find
love
good products, we share them.
Yeah, I like Scratch for hydration, but that's really, but I love the Morton bars. And then, as a triathlete, I carry a lot of crap with me when I go out on a run, on the bike, to the pool. I have enough food for at least 20 people. So if you're ever out on a run and you see me. And
I'm starving. Wait, I need that.
Totally. So that's cool. So did you learn a lot about what you need, like moving forward for ultras and races, like in terms of nutrition and hydration?
It's funny because you learn it, you know it. It gets to race day, it goes out the window.
Yeah.
I mean, for most people, I think that's true. There's a lot of friends of mine who are very disciplined and they stick to it.
Yeah.
But for me, no. I'm like, oh. Like,
you're not supposed to use your brain.
Yeah, I go off feel very much on race day. Like if I think I need more gels, I'm not adverse to taking a gel at 24 miles of a 26.2 mile race. If I feel like I need something to get me through that last 2 miles, I'm gonna take it. You don't have to drain the pouch. If you just need like something, a little, like, you know, as I call it, the oyster shot of your gel, just take it and drop the rest of it into the trash. So yeah, I definitely do go off feel, but my non-negotiable is running with electrolytes. I can't run with plain water, and I know there's a lot of races out there that don't let people run with bottles for safety, and understand that. But I think it's changing now. I think like camel packs are being allowed in more races.
Oh yeah, no, I knew that.
Yeah, but a lot of times bottles, when you get to the start line, if they're being strict on security, they're like, nope, can't bring that in. Like, you do understand we are running.
Right. Well, there's a lot of the marathons out there, I think some of the majors that like, or maybe they're not majors. I wanted to do the Paris Marathon, and when I heard that like they run out of water, I was like, I'm not doing it.
No, absolutely not.
I would be so scared. Like that's my safety.
Yes.
Is the water.
Yeah.
Like I run with the water bottle, so like if I don't have water, I start to like panic. It's
same.
The worst.
Even if I have my bottle, when I ran the Paris, the Marathon Porto this year, I took water with me. I had food poisoning the night before, so I was drastically scared and dehydrated. But I'd switch hands, and then I still grab one of those teeny stupid cups that spill all over you anyway, and take a sip, because that is one thing I've been very trained, and I tell people to do, is just take a sip at every station. Get yourself in the habit from the first station, because you don't want to get to like the 5th station and God forbid they've run out.
Right.
But you just haven't figured it out. So practice those first few stations of like spilling the water on you, missing a cup, and like, go, I'm gonna use the next person. So yeah.
That's awesome advice for people too. So what is it about ultras? Like, is it a mindset that, you know, over marathons or the half distance that you see, like that you kind of vibe with, that you're liking?
I think it's the excitement. As I said, road racing just got boring.
Okay.
I think, no offense to Tokyo and the team in Tokyo, that is one boring race. Oh Lord, I was done. By the like second out and back, I was like, okay.
And I heard like to go to the bathroom, you have to walk a mile off the, like these are things that would deter me from a marathon.
I remember I didn't have to go to the bathroom, which is shocking for me and my GI. I do not remember the bathrooms.
That's okay. I don't need to.
At Tokyo.
Yeah.
It's
beautiful though.
The city is beautiful, which is what flummoxes me of why that course is so boring. Although, according to Austin, I did miss a lot. He was like, "Did you see that amazing temple?" I was like, "No." Where? So yeah, it may be better than I think it was, but I'm not a big fan, or I wasn't a big fan of out and backs before the Great World Race, because they were all 1.5 mile repeats basically.
I saw that. Speaking of the Great World Race, I was looking at the course and I was like, wait, I thought you'd be like running through the countryside.
Me too. Yeah, me too. Antarctica was our longest loop course of 10 kilometers, 4 times, 4 and a bit. And the rest of them were a mile. Well, the shortest one was 1 kilometer.
So how did you do that mentally? Because that is
I shut down. I shut down. Luckily, that one was at night, so it was dark. It was kind of raining when we started. It was in Istanbul. The ground was terrible. It was like someone had taken a jackhammer to the pavement. So we were constantly looking at the ground. There was ramps going up and down. It was literally along the waterside. When we started, there was fishermen who were just didn't give a monkey's about us, like flinging their rods back and forward. So we're like, ducking like boxers. So I think that definitely took our minds off of it. But I don't know how I did that 20 times, back and forth.
That is definitely moving meditation.
Yeah.
That is like Murakami, like
It was.
for sure.
It weirdly got kind of exciting though, because there was just us 57 running, well actually 56 that day because poor Justin ended up in a Turkish hospital.
Oh no.
But we saw each other so often, and like the girls, we were running together again. It was one of those races. And it was fun just cheering everybody on. And I think when you get in that middle ground between like you count the first 5 and then you're like, I cannot do this all the way, so you stop, and then all of a sudden I didn't look at my watch once.
I was just gonna say, it sounds like swimming in the pool.
Yeah, exactly. You all of a sudden, like, I got to a point where I saw the clock on the start finish turnaround and was like, okay, we're like 2 hours and 50 minutes. We should be getting close to a point where I'm excited. And I asked, David Kilgore was ahead of me, and I was like, dude, how many more have you got? And he was like, 2 more. And in my brain I was like, okay, so I've got 4 more. Awesome. And that was how it was, just actually got quite exciting. That's why I say I wasn't a fan of Out on Becs, whereas now I'm like, maybe one day people will see me on the West Side Highway just being like, bing, 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 bing. Like, oh no, she's gone crazy. She's doing another marathon.
So are you gonna, you know, speaking of ultras, so do you have another ultra in mind?
Not right now.
Not right now. You're just kind of coming off I don't know, because like when I do a marathon, well, I've done one marathon, but whenever I do a race, like I'm come off that and I'm like, I'm gonna just chill out, and then I'm like on, you know, the internet looking for the next one.
I know, I'm a spontaneous I mean, the Great World Race is probably the most planning I've ever had.
Yeah.
Even when I did the Olympic trials, that was November, and the race was in March, so that's really not that long. So we'll see. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I definitely am on the adventure race spectrum now of like, this is where my heart is, whether it is a marathon somewhere interesting. I have, my bucket list is the Great Wall of China marathon, which is one of the toughest in the world, and most people don't actually make it. So we'll see. Now I've done Antarctica though, I'm like, well, that was like what I never thought I'd do. So here we are.
And that was on your bucket list. Yeah. Huge. And now what about Sydney Marathon? Are you into that, or?
Yeah, my ex-husband lives in Sydney, so I'm kind of like scared that I will see him.
You probably will now.
And
you just called it onto your vision board.
Yeah, exactly. You're the third person who's asked me, and I've given them that answer every time. I'm
okay,
like,
you're not going to.
I don't want to be looking over my shoulder for 26.2 miles.
Okay, no Sydney.
But I would like to do it. The new 9 or whatever they're going to be called from the World Marathon Majors is really exciting. You know, I feel like having done the second leg of the Great World Race in Cape Town and not running through the beautiful city, I'd love to go back and run that race if that becomes one of the majors. And then I know there's Singapore potentially is on the cards. I think that was the other one. So we'll see where it goes. I'd have to do some work though to get into Sydney. I think it's full probably already.
Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of work to get into Sydney, I mean, you do work with New York Roadrunners and the TCS New York City Marathon. Yeah. So kind of pivoting from your actual running, now you're working in the running industry beyond Peloton and beyond the doing. How has that been, broadcasting and all of that?
It's a dream come true. My first want, when I went to university, I studied visual arts and communications, and I wanted to be a presenter. That's all I wanted to do, was to be a presenter on TV, and sport was like my thing of what I wanted to be in. So to be able to be doing that now, like 20 years down the line, is huge to little Becs. And to be doing it about running, this like the thing I love the most in my hobbies, is weird sometimes. I say, when I did the United Airlines half, sitting next to Ryan and Carrie in that booth, and then Austin brought Tallulah down when we finished off air, and I just thought like, wow, this is such a big moment for me personally.
Huge. And
I adore it. I really do. I think the sports commentary side is changing huge amounts. For one, we're seeing a lot more women at the forefront of NFL, basketball, college football. I have my amazing colleague Jess Sims doing that. And just to give the education, we are as knowledgeable as our male counterparts in these things, but also we can speak about it in a different way. So Carrie Tollefson Olympian, one of the most phenomenal women I've ever had the pleasure of meeting, and now I can call her a friend. She is so well read on the world of athletics. She can tell you pretty much anyone's PRs and
wow, that's amazing.
Medal counts. She's just got a brain.
That's a
for
tough
it.
skill, actually.
Yeah, she's honestly a 1 in a million.
Yeah.
Her and John Anderson, very, very, very similar, and a great duo. When it comes to me, I'm not that person, and she fills that bucket. I don't need to be Carrie Tollefson.
Right.
She's there. I am the commentator who will bring real running to the audience, who can break down what I saw at the professional women's field at the TCS New York City Marathon, and not just give like words that the at-home watcher doesn't understand. Like, you know, there's viewers there going like, what's that? I don't understand.
Right,
those
like
terms.
you bring it down to earth and make it more relatable.
Make it relatable and make it aspirational. Make it, you know, there might be somebody at home thinking like, okay, I just broke a sub 3 or I just broke a sub 5. This is awesome. This is how I get faster. This is where I could go, and dream big. So it's it's the real running is what I hope I can bring to the viewers.
That's amazing. And you recently got to ride on the back of the truck. What is it called? The cart that I remember the moto at the New York City Marathon.
Yeah.
So what was that like?
That was surreal. That was so surreal. So I've been to the TCS New York City Marathon start line twice, once as a runner and now once as a reporter. And it was so much better being on the side of not running.
I have to say, like, this year was my first year being official media and not running. So like in 2019, I was media and I ran.
Okay.
So that was great because I got to sit in the VIP tent and not freeze my butt off outside. And it used to be cold here, right? Before global warming really kicked in full force.
Yeah. It was a cold day at the start this year though.
Oh yeah, it was cold.
Yeah.
I know. I rode my bike. I was like running around like investigative reporter. Okay. I was on my bike with my GoPro riding around the city making videos.
Yeah.
But then I went up to New York Roadrunners to the media tent. Yeah. I've never experienced a team of people so professional and so amazing and so kind.
Yeah, they all
and
are.
They were like, even, you know, I was at the finish line and they organized bringing all the pros over for me to interview.
Yeah.
It was really like next level professional.
Yeah, they are.
They must be great to work with.
They're phenomenal to work with, and I know there's, you know, Sam Grotwald, who helps all of the elite runners come through the races for New York Road Runners, and you've got Erin and Matt, and like they're just such a great team that I adore working with them, and I'm so lucky to be able to do that side of it as well as the podcast for them too.
And then broadcasting, like beyond New York Road Runners, beyond the TCS Marathon. I mean, you're on, it was NBC.
Yes.
Yeah? So, I mean, what was that like for you?
That was stupid. I mean, it was wonderful, but like in my brain, I was like, "This is stupid. Is this happening to me? Am I on a flight to the Paris Olympics to go and work for NBC?" Like, it was a whirlwind. It was a couple of days there. I got there. They got me a bib to run the Marathon Poitou, which was the night race, which was stunning. I've never run the Paris Marathon.
Oh my God. That was the one that I was scared to run because I thought they would run out of water. Not the Olympic one, the Paris Marathon.
The actual Paris Marathon in February.
Yeah.
Right. No, this one was in the middle of summer, nighttime. The city was just alive.
That's beautiful.
With the Olympic vibe. And then I did a hit just as the women's race was starting, the professional women's Olympic marathon race, which was really cool. And just like, wow, why am I one of the people offering advice here? You know, I'm surrounded by these incredible women and athletes, so I was really honored to be part of the team.
It's nice to hear that, like, as someone who's an entrepreneur, I mean, you're in these very like game-changing, pioneering positions, like going over to Peloton, leading the treadmill training, and you know, from a coach to leading the entire program to hosting the podcast and broadcasting at New York City, TCS New York City Marathon and New York Road Runners, to being at the Olympics, broadcasting on NBC. Like, that you still have those moments where you're like, am I really here? Like, is this really happening?
Yeah. I always say, when people say, like, do you think it's like, what goes through your mind when someone recognizes you?
Yeah.
It is still, I'm just a girl who likes to run. And I don't understand why people fangirl over me. I'm like, I'm the same as you. You like running, I like running. Why are you like freaking out over meeting me? And I just think because I don't get, because I was an instructor through COVID. I did the at-home classes. So I knew all the instructors. You know, I've been at Peloton for, it's exactly 7 years since I got my contract with Peloton.
Okay.
So I've known these people, the vast majority of the team, for a very long time, and I didn't get that vulnerability moment of meeting the instructors for the first time in COVID. So I always forget that, but yes, I still am like, this is so dumb. Like, I sweat like you. Like, what's happening?
I think what it is because like you're in someone's, it's like being on television.
Yeah.
You're in someone's home every day, and they feel like they know you, and you inspire people, you motivate people, you get them through tough times. I mean, I don't even know, like, even when I started doing Peloton, like we got a treadmill during the pandemic, and I didn't know who you were before that. And I love your music, and I love your playlists, and I love when you are talking through the classes. Like, I just laugh. And you know, that's not something you really do when you're running and you're doing a hard run and you're like up there in like zone 3, zone 4.
Agreed.
So
agreed. It's just that differentiation that makes it. But yeah, I forget that all the time.
I know, but that's good. You know, it's like you're not like so in your head that like. And I think that's what also people love about you, like you're so relatable.
Thank you. Well, definitely yesterday, I tried to do a workout yesterday and did not go well.
So tell me about that, because I saw that on your Instagram. I was laughing so hard because, by the way, that happens to me like every day. I end up doing like one thing.
Yeah. So essentially, as I said earlier, for the last 9 months of the year, I forgot I owned a car, so my legs were everything. Poor Tallulah was pushed to school in her running stroller all summer by me in the morning, early doors, dropped off at daycare if she was going to daycare, and then I would go out on my runs. And it was, she goes to school 2 days a week. So
and she's 2 now. She just turned 2.
She just turned 2, and I was like, okay, mom is back. Like, I can start taking her to school properly. You know, Austin's been super dad through this whole training and everything. And so he's doing whatever he had to do, started work early, got on with his day. And I was like, this is great, awesome. Like, got tea in the car, I put my gym kit on. I was like, right, the gym is right next door to her daycare. So I was like, I'm gonna drop her off, put the blinkers on, get her into school, go and find a parking spot, gonna go lift. It's back in maintenance and strength time for Becs. I was so focused, like I had my big noise cancelling headphones so I could get in the zone. I was gonna like get some Andy Spear, like inspiration. I could not find a parking spot anywhere. But in my mind, I was like, all right, I'll go home. I was like, I have my Peloton app on the TV.
Right.
So I was like, I'm gonna get home, get the weights off the roof, come down, I'm gonna do a workout in my living room. And I did. I got that. The weights were frozen, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to wait a minute because they're so cold. And then I couldn't be bothered.
You went up on the roof though?
Yeah, I should have just done my workout on the roof, but it was really cold.
Yeah.
Like Tallulah's summer water thing was still up there and it was frozen, and that just made me be like, ugh, it's too cold. But I did take the weights, I took them downstairs, couldn't be bothered to put my Peloton app on the TV. Like, I was so lazy. It had a lovely Christmas fireplace on with Christmas music. I was like, I'm just gonna do my own workout in my head. Step 1 for failure. So basically Maurice was my trainer. Step 2 for failure. I do my first like inchworm walkout and he's like, ooh, playtime, scoots under me, like hits me. I'm like, oh no, this isn't gonna go well. But I stuck with it. I did 1.5 sets. Austin came downstairs from his meeting and just kind of looked at me and laughed and was like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm trying. He said, why are you doing leg work? All you've been saying is you wanted to do upper body. I was like, that's true. My legs are beasts right now. I should do. So then I started just doing like bicep curls with these weights, having a chat with him. And then he went to take the dogs out. And I was like, hey, you want to go for a walk with the dogs and get a coffee? He's like, are you not working out? It's like, I'm done.
So I love Andy Spears.
Yes,
he is like, of all the strength coaches, he's my guy.
Yeah.
And
he's
I don't
so
even love
knowledgeable.
his music, but it's okay. I forgive him for that. Like,
he has his own music personality, that's for sure. But his expertise is unrivaled, I think, on our team. Like, no disrespect to my other colleagues are highly qualified.
Everyone is, but
everyone
it's
is
just my go-to.
Andy is just, same. I text him all the time. I literally texted him yesterday, was like, can you help me get my arms a little stronger, please?
Well, I feel like, I need to get heavier dumbbells in my house, but then I go and I do a Peloton class with Andy, and I'm like, nope, I'm good.
Same.
But that's it.
Like 10 pounds.
I think those workouts are really like, if I can't get to the gym, because I really want to lift heavy, that's like my new thing. I mean, it's not new, it's just like new because I haven't done it yet, but I say it every day. I just end up deferring to Peloton. Right. Like I end up like just putting my iPad on, multitasking, getting some. I interviewed someone yesterday who called it snacks, which I thought was like, you know how you eat snacks throughout the day? Like you could just do exercise as snacks throughout the day.
It's so good, especially if you're not like gonna sweat heavily and need to change your clothes.
Right.
Just do a 10-minute core here and there, then do 10-minute arms and light weights. It's great.
What is the new AI thing that you launched with TCS, Tata Consulting Services? Thank you, Tata Consulting Services.
So this is an absolutely incredible thing. It's called the Digital Twin Heart, and they have been working on replicating people's hearts. So they've started off with a sort of, I don't want to call it a test group, but like it is a test group of athletes who were able to come in, and they are athletes from Des Linden to normal day-to-day athletes, and they have made copies of the heart.
Wow.
And you go in, you put the AI goggles on, and you can step inside your heart and see the capillaries, you can see everything, the arteries moving. It's so weird. It's set to the BPM of your heart, so it's pulsing while you're in it, and you're just like, oh, this is strange. But what it has been able to do is uncover anomalies in the heart, strengths, weaknesses, essentially, and then training values. So for someone like Des, it was really clear to see that she trains in a certain way versus another male athlete, for example, who trained in threshold all the time. And it's so awesome that this progress has come about, and it can predict things. It will be able to predict things about the heart. So say you're a sprinter, a track 100-meter sprinter,
right,
and you want to know about endurance. It can actually, after time, if it has enough information, predict how your heart would react, or vice versa. If you're an endurance runner and you want to do sprints, it might be like, actually, your heart's not going to respond well to that. So you're better off sticking with endurance, or you'd be great at that because your heart rate's not going to go above X, so that's phenomenal. And at the same time, you can do stress tests on your heart. So
that's
for
great.
People who potentially have some weaknesses in their heart, you can figure out a bit more precisely where those fine lines are and where they can be dabbled with, because so many of us have things going on with our hearts that maybe don't affect our day-to-day but concern us mentally. And we, when I had Tallulah, I had severe preeclampsia and hypertension. My blood pressure was through the roof. I was on death's door. If I had gone to sleep that night, there's about a 90% probability I wouldn't be here today. And so after that, I was very, very concerned about my heart rate. And then when I started training again, it plagued me with concern, and I switched all my watch faces over to heart rate only. I wasn't bothered about pace. And so to know that this sort of technology is evolving to the point where I could go in the future, say I'd been working with TCS and they have a digital twin of my heart, they could run tests of stress on my heart to say like, okay, no, right now your heart is still recovering, you shouldn't be going over this, it's going to put you in danger zone. That's amazing. And then they do these like simulation runs then as well in AI, so you could wear glasses, and it will show you the route and your pace and your heart rate in your eyes, and like it will tell you that the elevation is coming up, and you'll be like, okay, this is a 2% elevation. It's unreal.
And it's on the treadmill or also outside?
Outside as well.
Oh wow, that's like pretty cool.
Actual running glasses.
That's really cool. I know, I geek out on the tech. I also do, like, for my heart, like I had Tim O'Donnell on the podcast. He had a heart attack while running, and I've also had other people on the podcast who have had heart attacks, cardiac arrest while in the middle of a triathlon kind of thing. So this AI thing sounds really great.
I know. We were going to do a digital twin of my heart, but timing just didn't work out with the race, and I'm actually quite claustrophobic. My sports bras are one size too big for me because I hate tightness around my chest. And So I would have had
to have
I would have had to have worn the chest heart rate monitor, which
Okay.
I just don't do, because as soon as I start with those things, I'm like, get it off me.
Yeah.
I'm a wrist heart rate monitor kind of girl. So yeah, I hope to be able to work with them further and do it, because I personally would really like to research my own heart a bit more.
Yeah, and so have you done a VO2 max test?
Yes.
And that's okay for you with that thing on your face? Yeah.
Yeah, my friends have an incredible company here in New York City who run a very fun VO2 max threshold testing, force plate testing, all of that. Again, not sponsored, just really good friends of mine who do it. It's called the Athlete Project, and it is super cool. I did it at the start of my training for the Great World Race, and then I did it the week I left, or the week before I left, actually, the week of New York City Marathon, and just to see what had changed, where I was at, and I was happy with my results.
That's awesome. I would love to check that out. I tried to do a VO2 max test, but I couldn't. I think when I was running on the treadmill, I'm so used to my Peloton treadmill that any other treadmill, it's like very hard to run on. And I was at this place, I'm not going to say where, and it wasn't like, I didn't feel balanced, and
was it a belt or a slat tread?
It was a belt.
Oh yeah. So these guys, Dylan, they have a slat belt tread.
Yeah.
And the view is magnificent. It's out over the East River. It's gorgeous.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so, what's next for you? This is coming out in January. I know maybe not a race, but like, what are you focusing on? Do you set intentions for the new year? Like, what's?
I don't. My only intention of the new year is to tighten it up and brush it up.
Okay.
I get very overwhelmed in the new year when people are like, what are you changing? What are you doing? I'm like, 2024 Becs wasn't that bad. Why, like, God, why? I didn't turn into a demon in December. Like, what's going on here? Why do we all have to delete ourselves on January 1st? Like, I'm okay with how I am right now. Holiday season's a holiday season. I think when you're a parent of a toddler, you are not out every night. Yeah. So it's quite easy to be like,
that ship has sailed.
Yeah, I don't have to like not drink, because I barely do anyway. Like, there's all of that fun thing. But I am aware of like brushing up, tightening up, setting goals for sure. But I reset my goals every month with what I want to do. I think the calendar of an athlete isn't a traditional calendar. It rolls. It rolls depending on what seasons you race and run. So I'll be ensuring I'm doing things to my best capacity again in January. But as I said, I try and do that every day.
Right.
And race-wise, goal-wise, I mean, we'll see what comes my way. I've got my eyes on a few things, and in traditional Becs standard, I will let people know when I'm ready to, if I do it, and it'll be really close to it, because I hate the pressure of people knowing.
Because then you have to do it.
Yes.
Yeah, it does. That doesn't affect me. I say things all the time.
Yeah. No, I keep a lot of things close to my chest.
Yeah.
I also don't believe a lot of things happen when I put them out into the universe. I've had so many things that I really wanted to happen, and I've spoken them out, and they've gone. And I'm like, is there someone around just, nixing my things? I'm like, go away. Yeah. So I keep a lot of things close to my chest. But again, Aries, we're kind of solo.
I get that. I'm a Scorpio.
Yes.
So I feel that Mars energy.
Yeah.
What's your base mileage weekly that you're going to keep, just kind of moving into the year?
Nothing.
What do you
I don't have numbers. I don't even have goals like that on a weekly basis. Unless I'm training for something, my coach, Stephen Kirsch, will give me my workouts. He's never given me full mileage for the week, because he knows my brain doesn't work like that.
Okay.
I'm terrible. Sorry. I'm a terrible interviewee, because people are always like, what's your average mileage? I'm like, whatever I want to run.
I mean, that's also flip it around. That's amazing. You're on a need to know basis. You are very fluid.
Very fluid. If I want to run, I want to run. Right now,
it's in you, though.
Itching to run. I haven't run since Tuesday, and I just really wanted to go for a run this morning, but I'm a mom, and I had Tallulah, and it was actually way more fun dancing around the lounge with her around the Christmas tree this morning. But I really want to get outside and go for a run.
It's nice weather today.
Yeah, I mean, it's freezing.
Cold.
It's
cold. It's not that cold.
I'll put on my Antarctica gear. It's fine.
And so, do you find it hard to hold back sometimes? Is that the challenge for you, as opposed to
Speed.
building? Yeah.
Speed is my challenge for me. That's where I really struggle to hold back. My coach will attest to that at the start. Well, midway through this training cycle, he was like, you have to run slower. You are not going to survive this training and this race at these speeds. And so of course I went, watch me.
So you're still like, you're like one of those athletes that doesn't do zone 2 unless you're teaching it.
Absolutely.
I get that. And you've been running your whole life. So there's no such thing as zone 2. It's all in your head.
That's recovery.
Totally. What can we expect to see for Peloton 2025? Anything new and exciting that you can talk about coming out in January?
Oh, goodness me. I'm sure there is. On the running side, I don't know anything on any other modality. I know when you guys know. I think Pelo Buddy might know before me most of the time. But when it comes to my main modality, which is running, 2025 is going to be the year of running. I think you're going to see a lot of more focused attention to moving our bodies, whether it's walking or running. We are just hoping to inspire more people to move in that way. We are not about, I am not about like the speed or the distance when it comes to my coaching. I'm about getting people to move their bodies in that fashion and enjoying it. I want people to do it with a smile on their face for as long as possible.
And I noticed that you're doing pace zones, like
pace targets.
Pace targets. I just tuned back into Peloton after 4 months of not being on.
Yeah, welcome back.
Thank you. So what, like, did that happen in this 4 months? Because I've never noticed that before.
I feel like Matt Wilpers and I have been working on it for our entire married life together, because we are work married. And I think it is the most incredible thing we have done for our members on running. It is personalized pace targets, so you can input your best mile, whether you know it offhand, or you can do a 1 mile test on the tread. And from there, it will set you into your pace targets. So essentially your zones. There's 7 of them that we've worked on and created for our pace targets, and this is not in relation to anything else. So take away power zone training, like it's not related. So people don't get confused. It's running, it's rebuilt for running by Matt and I, and it is awesome. So you can change it if you know, it says you're on like level 3, and it will give you your zones, your pace zones for like your easy run and up to your max.
In my dreams, if I run a 9-minute mile, then that will be the sort of like benchmark.
Exactly.
And then it sets my other zones, and there's 7 of them.
Yes, There's 7 zones and there's 7 levels. 7 zones and 9 levels. So you can change it. So say you headed in and you're on level 3. That's what the Peloton algorithm gave you from your 9-minute mile. And you, after a couple of weeks, were like, no, this feels too easy. You can level up then. So it adjusts everything based off of you, which is so cool. And like, we now all teach to get to easy pace. So there's no numbers involved. We're not alienating anybody. It is based off your movement. And that to me is coaching. That is our first step that we've taken this year to make our coaching more authentic and more precise.
That's brilliant. I love that. I mean, that's how you are coached, like when you're training for triathlon. I haven't seen a lot of that in marathon, but that's amazing. And I also noticed a lot of the classes are shorter. But you had started before ankle sprain, BAS, as I'm going to start referring to it. You were doing longer classes, but then I now notice there's a lot of shorter classes.
There's a lot of shorter classes. It's time of the year. It is that time when everyone's super, super busy, and it's just easier to digest these shorter classes. But we have the longer classes. I teach, before the race, I was teaching 1 hour class every weekend, and that will come back. They've just given me some time just in case I was injured, fatigued. I shortened it. So I'm back to 45 this weekend, and then 60 will be next weekend onwards on a Saturday. And then the longer, so 75 and above, they're new to us, and we know there's an appetite for it from our members out there. We just need the feedback, or we don't. I see the feedback. I know the feedback. Mariana does, Wilps does, Susie does. We just need the C level.
The numbers?
To see that in the numbers, exactly. And then when they have that proof that this is, it's cost as well to produce a 2-hour class is a lot more money.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure that it is viable in every way for the company. We're seeing it is. So everyone, don't panic. We know that you love the 2-hour classes. So we're just figuring out ways to get it back in. And I love teaching it. That was just the best day.
It's nice. It's like a podcast, you're like talking and running and different iterations. And I mean, I always stack the classes when I'm training.
Well, that's it. That's how we came about with it. The runners of the coaches, we were like, people are stacking classes to create 2, 3, 4 hour training blocks on the tread because they love our content. They want to stay with their instructors. So why don't we just give them some longer classes?
And it's really like, I remember like in training for a spring marathon, which, I'm not a fan of freezing either. I look like whatever that Pillsbury dough. Yeah. Like I run in like a parka in the winter and then I'm like dropping things off all along the West Side Highway. But like that is, the treadmill with the content, you could be on there like it's a whole day. I'm just on there like, and I can do other stuff like because you're doing slow running. So it's like,
if it's steady state cardio, you can stay on there. You can go from just run with a completely empty screen if you just want to be in your zone. You can have your instructors of choice. You can get Netflix, you can get Amazon, you can listen to your audiobook. Like there's so much on there now that you're not being forced into one thing or the other. So I've run marathons on the tread for training in winter because I'm not a hero. If you're one of those people who go out there on the ice, unless you're from Minnesota or somewhere and you're practiced in it, good for you. New York runners, stop doing it for the Instagram picture. You're foolish. You look foolish. You don't look brave. You look like somebody who doesn't actually care about your body or running because one teeny tiny slip, guess what? That marathon's not happening.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely draw the line at a certain point. Like, I don't care about putting clips on my shoes for ice or like
it doesn't work in New York on the tarmac. Those clips work on padded snow again, like Minnesota, Antarctica, those kind of places.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's like. Yeah, you have to, I think the treadmill has its place. I mean, it's been a real game changer for me to be able to run on a treadmill. And you're also, I noticed also that you have all the courses, like the different races leading into the New York City Marathon. Yeah. So you have like different legs of the course that you could do on the treadmill, which is amazing because I feel like I had maybe even tried to do that at one point, like when I was training for the marathon to like reinvent it like with hills and stuff. So are you doing that for all the races now, or?
Not right now, just because they're all individually owned. So it's actually more of a rights thing.
Okay.
So we're very lucky that we got to get to work with New York Roadrunners who own the TCS New York City Marathon.
Right.
So they allowed us on the course, and that's where we got the footage from, and we went from there.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I mean, So Peloton's partners with New York Roadrunners, which we talked about. Yeah. So how's the podcast going?
It's phenomenal. Rob Simonke, my co-host with me, is a really wonderful guy to work with. He has such a great voice. I mean, he's done presenting for years. He was a sports commentator for a very long time, so he knows the business inside out. So I feel like I have a mentor and a friend in him, and I'm starstruck by the guests we get to meet, whether they're athletes to celebrities in acting world. It's just so wonderful to talk to all these people about how running's changed their life.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So it's January right now. Like let's say it's the first week of January.
Okay.
Who is on the podcast this week? Do you know?
No idea. No clue.
I love it. I've just got like your whole number. You are like a light. Like you're like almost like a channeler. Like you just like things come into you and then you like put them out there.
Yeah, I'm like, no, don't know. Should know.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Becs, this has been amazing. I'm so glad that we got to meet in person. I hope we get to hang out again and like, maybe do another podcast or
a run maybe.
A run?
That would be fun.
That would be hysterical, actually.
do it. West Side Highway is my favorite place to run.
All right, cool. That would be like on like a day where like you could bring Tallulah because it would be so slow for you.
She's faster than me.
Well, in the stroller.
Oh yeah, okay, we'll do that.
All right, awesome.
Amazing.
Well, this has been super great. Thank you so much
Thank you for having me.
being here. Awesome.
Yay.